know that you're right? How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
That's the $1,000,000 question. How do you know that you are right? Let's talk about it.
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you guys what was happening, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming so we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
That was conservative YouTuber Nick Shirley. His viral video where he's going door to door at daycares in the Minneapolis area and saying that he's uncovering massive amounts of fraud at Somali-run daycares has exploded on social media. Elon Musk retweeted the video. J.D. Vance retweeted the video. CNN is looking into Shirley's claims. This idea of fraud in Minnesota, though, is not new. In fact, for many, many years, the Department of Justice has been prosecuting cases against dozens of defendants, many of whom are concentrated in the Somali American community here in the Minneapolis area. Some of those cases actually began under Biden's DOJ in 2022 for a various list of different types of frauds. And so
she asks him, how does he know that he's right? Right? He says that there may be $8 to $9 billion worth of taxpayer money being fraudulently taken from Americans through these child care services in Minnesota. And in response, our current administration has frozen federal child care funds to the state, of which a lot of these daycares, who might not even be affected by these fraudulent claims, will be affected by this and may not be able to keep their doors open in more than 30 days. They are assuming systemic weakness rather than opportunistic players exploiting loopholes. I know you must be asking me, who is they? We see Nick Shirley, an independent journalist. Oh, he didn't get those numbers just from the air. He got them from the Center of the American Experiment, a conservative Minnesota-based think tank. Yes, very independent. They have been a very large advocate for better fraud protections within Minnesota, which on its face sounds great. They have gathered a lot of information over the years. They have worked with Shirley, Fox News, Newsmax, and he has worked quite a bit with them as well. I want you to sink that in for a moment. And I want to ask you a question. Knowing what you know about Governor Tim Walz, which if you don't know, he was running for president on the Democratic side for a little bit, very vocal against this current administration. Do you think this state would be investigated so heavily after a video of unverified claims has just recently come out? Do you think normally there would be such an aggressive and unprecedented response as freezing money to childcare services? Why Minnesota, right? Minnesota isn't the only state with fraud, especially with large fraud. Florida, California, New York, Alaska, all have larger reported cases of fraud in different areas. However, Minnesota does have one of the largest, if not the largest, concentrated fraud efforts in recent history. Feeding our future. This is something that's going to come about time and time again because he's using that as an example. He calls it the blueprint to what he is seeing now with the potential daycare center fraud, right? $250 million from the Feeding Our Future case. He makes it seem as if the $8 or $9 billion could be coming from this one potential point of fraud, if proven. But it sounds like he might be actually conflating information over years of investigation for various fraud within that state. As he said in that video, right, he gave us information. It is up to us to interpret from there. See, information is not fact, right? Views are not truth. Okay. He said it right there. He gave you information, whether it be good or bad. It is now up to us to dig into it further and figure out the truth. So take a moment here, okay? Digest, pause at your leisure here too. I'm bringing all of this up because I didn't expect such an involvement behind this man's actions. And even more important, I didn't expect to read that our fearless leader can't just freeze federal funds in that way. That is supposed to be up to Congress, again, eroding at checks and balances. This is not an independent effort. This is not independent information. This is not an independent response. They even had him on their podcast after this video came out, and they called it More Fraud. Surely, haha, his last name. You can't be serious. They're using him as a mouth for their mind. Okay. Pause at your leisure. Okay. More interesting information. Feeding Our Future. The framing that Somalian immigrants and Somali Americans are disproportionately defrauding the state of Minnesota. All right. Again, pause at your leisure. I want you, this is very interesting. I'm just going to read it. While the majority of the 70 plus defendants in the Feeding Our Future case are Somali American, the central figure and founder of the nonprofit is Amy Brock, who is, say it with me, white. Prosecutors allege Bach was the mastermind who recruited others into the scheme, knowingly submitting fake meal counts and invoices. Outcome: she was ordered to forfeit $5.2 million in assets as part of the ongoing legal proceedings. See, they're trying to make it sound like Somalians and Somali Americans are just this fraudulent people. They did it with Feeding Our Future. Now they're doing it with the child care, right? But the person behind Feeding Our Future was a white woman. That was hilarious. Let's just glaze over that one. It's all just started, everybody. We're all just learning about what's going on. We don't have nearly all the details. There's several questions into how he even gathered the footage, if the footage is even accurate, when he even obtained the footage, was it at the right day and time? Were they on vacation? The numbers haven't even been proven. Again, he got his numbers from the Center of the American Experiment, a Republican think tank, not just an independent doing his grassroots research. And what makes it more interesting is this is going to have ripple effects throughout the rest of the states. They are now going to also want to audit themselves, which again is a good thing, but it shouldn't be out of fear of punishment if you happen to be outspoken against certain people. This is why facts and details matter. We have families potentially suffering over something that hasn't yet been verified. And again, this is all coming from a man who, when asked how he knows he's even right, deflects by saying it is up to us to decide. No, sir, your words have ripple effects and consequences. They are feeding a larger initiative, a larger narrative. I'm not saying this isn't important. I'm just wondering why the reaction is so strong and so punitive, and why people are calling this man independent when he so obviously is not. Making my head really small so you can see all of this. Pause at your leisure here. Since when have we become the guilty until proven innocent country? Why are we letting social media influencers influence federal policy? And again, I say to you, views do not equal truth. It is up to us to dig through the information and be critical thinkers about what we see and hear. Again, pause at your leisure. Like and share if you like what I'm saying. Comment if you do or don't. Let me know what you think. And I will talk to you later.